Hey there, product marketers. Welcome to GTM Happy Hour, where I meet with experts from product to marketing, sales to success. Product marketing is evolving into go to market strategy leadership, and PMMs are having to find ways to connect with the cross functional team members they need to lead go to market launches. I'm Jamie Walsh. I'm a product marketing and go to market advisor who's been in B2B SaaS for over 20 years. Over that time, I've had quite a few drinks with the experts that I admired, and it helped me grow to where I am today. I hope you enjoy the conversation. In this conversation, I talk with Steve Garrison, SVP of Marketing at Stellar Cyber. He shares insights from his extensive career in technology and marketing. We discuss the importance of asking the right questions in go-to-market strategies, the dynamics of investor relations, and the evolving landscape of profitability and growth in the cybersecurity sector. And Steve emphasizes the role of AI in enhancing business operations and the necessity of emotional connections with customers for competitive differentiation. Let's grab a drink.
Salute to you.
Some coffee webinars.
So
Cheers.
salute to you.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this. And today I am drinking Mad L from Trogs. It's a little leftover from Christmas.
Outstanding.
Post Valentine's Day beer. That goes to show you how much I actually do drink. But so I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. It was good to meet you the other day. Give us a little background about what you did. You told me, but I want the audience to hear, a rough rundown on what you did.
Well, thanks, Jamie. I'm Steve Garrison. I'm currently the SVP of Marketing at Stellar Cyber. I run global marketing, but I'm a little odd from a marketing trajectory, as I think a lot of people are in marketing, actually. I started out as a physicist, became a chip engineer, worked for Bob Noyce's last startup. For the historians, they know that's one of the founders of Intel. And I realized midway through my life that I really wanted to talk to customers and be on the front lines and ask them why they want things and what would motivate them. That is what marketing has become in my mind, Jamie. And so I'm happy to be a speaker on your webcast today.
Thank you. You've been in tech for over, we'll call it 30 years.
Yeah.
From product to marketing, and most recently in cybersecurity. And you've been an advisor and have also done fundraising. Am I right?
That's right. And that's one of the beauties of Silicon Valley. It really let me realize that I could network and find new ways to express my interests. And people were really open-minded, Jamie, about letting me participate in these new roles, which I'm very thankful for.
I think that's very interesting because I haven't done that yet in my career. Maybe at some point I will do advisory and help a company with the fundraising process. But I'm going to focus a lot of the things that I'm going to ask you around that. So, in terms of the advisory portion, what are some unique things that you have to bring to provide, more than just general advice? What are some things that you really have to bring to the table to be that advisor?
Well, and it is a good question. I'm advising two companies. One distantly, it's more in the past. It's a healthcare company up in the Northwest, and a buddy of mine who's on the board just thought I could help advise the junior marketing person there on basic strategies that are proven. And another company that's near and dear to my heart that I'm much more active in, it's a buddy of mine from one of my other startups. He's running an LED company in Santa Fe. And so he asks me much more about how to think through go-to-market and where would I build revenue streams? How would I build revenue streams as a direct sale or OEM sale, that kind of thing, Jamie. So I think, but to answer your question, first of all, if you want to just have your LinkedIn profile say you're an advisor, I'm sure you can get a lot of those, but being the right fit to help them at the right level is really the dance. And because my friend Eric brought me in to help the healthcare company, he knew I could just help a junior person with basic strategies. And in the case of the LED company, Vlad and I worked together at a materials company, so I intimately understand his product. And I understand how to bring some of the go-to-market expertise I have and how to think through which way do we go to market. It's not always the same way. It could be different based on the conditions, right? So I've been lucky that people saw how I could fit in. I didn't have to solve that problem myself, Jamie. I haven't had a line of people asking me to be advisors where I've been asked. It was actually as we would say, a correct product market fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that I look at go to market as two different sort of phases. One is the strategy side where you got to,
Yeah.
ingest a lot of data, talk to a lot of customers and keep that always on. And then you look at through that and you analyze and you pull out some insights that are good opportunities for you to go after. They might be in, blue oceans where there's nobody. There might be some green space within existing markets that you already serve that are just unsaturated. And then white space within existing customers. If you're, of a certain size, there's additional products that you can offer or new services that you can offer them. And then you go to enablement, like how am I going to do everything from soup to nuts in terms of like, how do I attract customers? How do I close the deals? And then how do I keep them buying from us and using our products and everything like that? Then there's the execution side, is like taking all that strategy and going out and attracting new customers, figuring out what's working, what's not working, doing the outbound cadences, doing demonstrations, having QBRs with existing customers, figuring out where they need help or where there's some additional opportunities for us to build product. All my question is do you look at that first part more as an art and the latter part more as like science? Like you could really figure things out on the execution side, but I think that there's a little bit more artistry in the strategy part.
I've done both, Jamie, and boy, you painted a really broad but accurate picture of the whole problem and the solution that people have when they're entrepreneurs and they're trying to break in, right? And I think there's always a little bit of art, which is expertise, and sometimes skills that you're born with, right? And sometimes it's the battle scars that we all talk about. But I'll tell you, throughout the process, what I've learned, and a lot of it through failure. I've been in 9 startups. 2 of them have been modestly successful, excluding Stellar Cyber. We're going to explode. We're going to be there with $1 billion payout. Who knows? But anyway, no, but we're doing well. But out of my history, out of the other 8, but a lot of them failed because we didn't do something so fundamental, and it'll sound really obvious, but people don't ask enough questions. When you're trying to break into a white space with a new product, I found so many founders or inventors never went out and interviewed 5 clients and said, I've got this wacky idea. What would you do if I presented it to you? Would you be excited? Would you tell me I'm presenting it the wrong way? Would you tell me that you're trying to be forced to buy it the wrong way? And by gosh, Jamie, that's why most of the companies that didn't do well, we pivoted 2 or 3 times because we realized halfway in, we never asked the basic question. How am I going to buy the widget? Do I even want to buy the widget? For example, my last shop, it was sold at cost to a large server manufacturer because what we had done is solved a day 0 problem in IT. We could spin up complex software in 5 minutes. We removed 2 to 3 weeks, if not months, of pain from an IT manager. But you know what? Because they only did it once, they weren't willing to pay for it. They're like, yeah, it's a 0-day problem. Once I do it, it's done. I'm fine. But we found as part of an integrated solution in a server manufacturer's rack, they saw it as a really high IP, very effective piece of glue that tied their solution together and made it right. You see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
should have been a feature to an OEM deal versus trying to build a company around it. And the founders never really asked the right question, which was, are you willing to pay for this problem if I solve it? And I think when I meet people from the East Coast who are more of the GE or the older school, they do market surveys. Jamie, I think all along this path, even you said the trigger word QBR. When you are intimate with a customer, if you're not asking them in your QBR, what can I do better? What can I do to help your friends buy my product? What can we do together as build a community to take over the world? You know how many people don't ask those questions? It's shocking. But I that's the biggest problem we have in go to market. And that's the art. It is you have to ask questions and be a good listener. I don't know. Possible.
Yeah. I was fortunate. Was with a company, BUIs, for a long time. We had a platform that did governance, risk, and compliance, right? And it had all the pieces that you needed to put together, but everywhere we went, they were doing the process differently. And we were able to meet them and serve a lot of customers. We were under NASDAQ, so we got exposure to a lot of big companies like GE, like you mentioned, where I did do some implementation work. And you learn so much about what's common among all of them, but it's also good to have those really big, beastie customers that really stretch your imagination because that's where things are going, and you can eventually productize the common things, right? But you really need to let the beast sort of let you take you for a ride and see where it goes
Yeah.
and meet their needs, and then figure out, okay, well, this isn't for everybody, but maybe in 3 years this will be a thing.
That's an art too. That's the Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm. Are you dealing with an early adopter, or are you dealing with the wave, the tornado part? And you don't know sometimes. I think that's really good. I do fear, we all talk about it, that the Wall Street mentality must be profitable, must grow this quarter, really constrains our thinking, because if you don't have a 1 year plan, you could miss something because you're so actionable for today that you're not patient enough. And I think different cultures, we all look to Asia, they do a little different over there. They're willing to think in terms of 5 years. It's hard. Can you think of a company if you actually sat down in North America and said, what's our five? It's not more than a single slide, right? I think this is a problem that I still think could only get worse with our clickability nature with all these apps and tools. But I think you're spot on. This is part of the art then. Again, going back to the original question, some
Yeah.
people just die for it and say, this isn't ready now, but the creativity comes into, can you build a business near term and grow it into something bigger? That's another 1-2 punch that sometimes you could argue has happened in the Valley and has happened with companies.
Now, you just brought up something a moment ago about, the need to be profitable and have these big lofty goals, right? And you have investor pressure, right? You need the investment, but they want something in return. And sometimes their expectation is going to be wildly different than what you think you can actually deliver. So putting your fundraising hat on and those investor pitches, like, how do you work with an investor to sort of balance that aggressive growth with sustainable things like retention and capital efficiency, especially, with things being as competitive as they are, and, the even competitiveness for the capital itself, the investment itself.
Well, things are very competitive, and the line continues to pull backwards, meaning they want more and more at seed and Series A than they used to 10 years ago. And that's just because there's so many people innovating, Jamie. They need a filter, right? And so I think, first of all, it's being thoughtful about who you're approaching for funding. A lot of my buddies say, "Oh, Steve, Chandra at Mayfield, or Michael Howard over at MVP. Can you give me an intro?" And I go, "Well, have you looked at their list of companies and partners yet?" No. Well, please do the homework, because if you pitch the wrong VC, they might already have a competitive investment, or they may be early stage and you're late stage, or vice versa. And it's just kind of like being an advisor, Jamie. Not everybody's the right advisor at the right time for the right opportunity. You've got to figure out where they fit, and do you have a cultural match? And I think there's more interest in that than there ever has been, because everybody sees the challenges in the market today. It's very complex. We have global dynamics like never before. We have political dynamics like never before. We have currency moving to digital, right? So there's a lot of things to watch out for. So I think what I'm blessed with right now is we have a very thoughtful, understanding board at Stellar Cyber who understands growth, understands where we are, understands our space. So their goals are realistic. They're challenging us. They're tough goals, but they're realistic because they understand the space we're in. And if you're mismatched, I've been in a situation where we brought in a board member at Series C, and he was so out of touch with our positioning and our market. We looked back and said, well, we took his money, but we shouldn't have. And he was frustrated because he was asking questions that nobody had answers for, and he was disappointed. That's not good, right? So I think it's be careful who you put on your dance card, I guess, is the main point there.
I guess, when you're building products, right, and you're a company building a business,
Yeah.
you have to really know your customer. But in this situation, you really have to also know your investor. I know that it's
Yeah.
important to be able to, like you said, match your growth expectations and what you need the money for, or what you need the investor to bring, that's, on top of the capital that they're offering, to really make sure that there's a good fit, that you can ride through that that investment period. Now, you said something about, the skepticism, or sometimes that you weren't always aligned. Like, how have you worked through any difficult situations like that? I think you alluded to a little bit, but you took their money, but probably shouldn't have. But have
Yeah.
there ever been any real challenges that you had to sort of fight through, and maybe they were fights you lost, or maybe they were fights that you won, should I say, or there was a compromise?
I've always been assistant to the CEO in fundraising and board dynamics, Jamie. So my former CEO at that company dealt with most of the pain. He just related to us and we could see it in the board meeting. And obviously it was even more intense during the closed session, which I wasn't in. And thank goodness, sometimes people want to be in the closed session. And I'm like, not always. You don't want to be in there. And so but it's just an example of what can happen when you don't have a right fit, right? And I think that's, again, it's an easy thing to say. It's easy to figure out when you look at VCs and investors. Just look at their portfolio companies and get a sense. Do you fit in? Do you understand what they understand? And by the way, instead of just pitching, that's a great question. Hey, Jamie, thanks for letting me pitch you today. But before I dive in, just give me a sense. Where's your thesis right now on picking companies, big, medium, stage, late stage? Because if I'm not a good fit for you, maybe you'll have somebody after the pitch that you can refer me to. I think that's just good selling. And again, a lot of people just jump in and pitch and don't even ask that question to clarify. And I think it's important.
Yeah, because the investor community is pretty tight. They all, a lot of them in cases know one another and know what's going on or what they're after, and can definitely put you in touch. And that reference, right, can go a long way to, you know, getting that funding versus going after them alone.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit towards the leadership itself, right? So there's in some cases, there's a leadership desire to, either grow or maybe even just an exit strategy that might be, a 3 to 5 year plan where we are going to get sold off to IBM, for example, or just, one of those things that happen pretty commonly. So, what's, what's some of the things that you are looking at for positioning yourselves for an acquisition, and that's it. What are some of the financial milestones or even product milestones that you're looking for growth wise? Too much growth, not enough growth? What are some of the things that you've had to, the variables that you had to play with to make yourself attractive in that case?
And again, it's a dynamic world, Jamie. And it seems like that whole answer I'm going to give you changes every 6 months to a year. Right now, everyone expects us to bring Gen AI in to cut costs. And that's one big push across every board, every public company, every startup is, do you really need 100 people to do that? What you used to do 10 years ago, can you do it with 80 people now with Gen AI? And the answer is becoming more and more, yes, I can actually do it with less people now. And that's a question that we deal with every board meeting and everybody I'm talking to about investment. That's number one. Number two, this year, and I mean 2024 rolling into 2025. So we're at February here. The mantra is less growth with profitability is better than high growth with bleeding cash. That's a real shift from 2022, 2023. And that's largely in the cybersecurity space right now. Just as a heads up, I'm in cyber and I'm very much speaking with a cyber voice in terms of these thinkings. But there was a growth phase before and during COVID where companies were really getting insane valuations and growing really fast. But then there was a reset and people started to realize, hey, wait a minute. And I think that's just sanity comes back into the swing. We're on a sane swing right now. Maybe in 5 years we'll go insane again. But right now, people want to understand if you're not profitable, what you're thinking to get there and how long is it. And there's a couple of key metrics that people are throwing around right now is NDR and GDR, net dollar retention and gross dollar retention. And they're primarily focused around SaaS. Again, most of the world is a SaaS product these days. And NDR tells you about your growth in an account, expansions, renewals. Is the customer sticky? And GDR is more about churn. And so those are metrics that, again, showing a trajectory of GDR being close to 100 is good, meaning you're retaining all your clients. And NDR well over 100%, maybe 200% is phenomenal. And showing that trending, even if you're not profitable, those metrics will help them understand you're growing, you're retaining customers, and you're sticky. This is good. So that's the short answer on how they might look at numbers outside of understanding your space to know where you are.
In terms of other types of metrics, the rule of 40 between growth and margin. So So is that still something that a lot of investors are following, or is that falling away to what you just mentioned?
GDR and NDR, at least in my boardroom, is more important than the rule of 40, but they also look at the SaaS footprint and the cost. And so we look at net margin, margin. But again, it's never a snapshot. Again, this is back to having a board that's thoughtful. If they're a good board, they're going to go based on where you are in your curve of growth and maturity. I don't expect perfection, but you should be trending at a certain slope, if you will, a certain
Right.
look to the curve. And so the numbers are just a snapshot, but showing the trending of these things. How is your margin going up? As you build out your footprint, which costs money in SaaS to have the data centers up all over the world with different regions, there is a buy it before they come, and you have to recover that growth, builds the margin back so that you can see what your trajectory of really, when you're really at scale and really profitable, what's your margins. So it's all about trending, I guess, is my point, Jamie. So again, a mature board doesn't just take those numbers as good or bad. They look at the trending and understand what's your growth and how is it performing.
And that trending, is that a 6 month, a 12 month, a 2 year look back, or?
Yeah, well, we do have a 3-year plan, surprisingly, and we take the 1-year plan very seriously. And again, another thing you said very early on, QBRs. In fact, my CEO and I went to the Gartner CMO and CEO conference down in Foster City in the fall, and we really both enjoyed it. We learned a lot. It's good to see high level stuff once in a while. And one of the great speakers from Gartner talked about this Gen AI issue. The profitability came from him, but he also said the digital world is moving so fast that you should be looking at your business at least 180 days. And we looked at each other and said, shoot, we do it every 90 days. So we felt really good. We full on look at our go to market with the full executive team, 2 days every end of quarter. And we ask everything. Are we in the right markets? Are we staffed right? Should we cancel something? Is there something that's elastic? If we double investment, we'll get immediate return. And we're very fluid with the business model. And I used to think that was just good. Now I think it's mandatory. You've got to look at yourself every 90 days because that's how fast the world's changing. It's fun, but it's stressful.
Yeah, I've been working in go to market for, well, about 10 years now, and I look at, all the different places I played a role in market development and customer success and product management and sales engineering and product marketing now. And the thing that I'm really focusing on a lot is about the go to market efficiency, right? How much you spend to earn every new dollar. In a lot of cases, that money doesn't print itself. Now it's really, really costly to go out and get that investment, even if you're using, institutional capital, but still the highest interest rates we've seen in the last 10 years. So we really need to focus on, okay, well, for every dollar that we bring in, how much revenue are we, or how much are we spending to get to that? And there's a lot of companies out there that are shocked by the things that they've sort of continued on through the COVID era when there was, a lot, lower interest rates and higher capital availability. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. You were talking a little bit about the AI value proposition. What do you find? Maybe give some examples of things, and this isn't things that Stellar Cyber may have done, but things you've heard. Like, what are some real garbage value propositions or pitches that you've heard around AI? And what are some really thought-provoking things that you thought were very, very profitable, or could be very powerful?
Yeah, before I answer, I just want to tell the audience, I'm full disclosure, I'm extremely deep in Gen AI. I think it's back to my engineering and no fear of science and no fear of failing mentality where I started as a kid. And I I wiped out product marketing on my team and replaced it with Gen AI. We don't have a product marketer anymore. We ask our bot to make our content. We've got a way to do that in a very creative and non-hallucinogenic way because we've contained where it looks for the data and blah blah blah. But I think where I hear the most fear about Gen AI and the most bogus pitches is just podcasts and media and the layperson hearing all this and fearing for their lives. And large language models and agentic AI coding for autonomous systems. There's nothing to fear yet. Okay. So The only fear might be is if you're a product marketer or a copy editor, you might want to think about how to change your job. But we're nowhere near the bots taking over humans. Maybe in 20 or 30 years that could possibly happen. But right now, they're just tools, Jamie. Like to me, because I grew up on a mainframe and shifted to the PC in the mid '80s. It's that kind of a radical shift. It's just a different way to write. You don't pick up a pen and write anymore. You ask a chat GPT to craft a paragraph with these themes, and boom, you got it, and you shape it and finish it. You're good to go. So I, I've got my team looking at every aspect of adopting any kind of chat GPT that can get us to the answer faster, that can help us do what we do better. So, for example, inside sales is on my team. I've got a great team. They're expert callers. They're not meeting setters. They're empathetic people who will build a relationship with you. So guess what I want? Call time. And anything I can do to get them on the phone 2 times more a week, it's gold. So we're looking at AI chatbots and AI email systems and even AI front ending a lot of their hard work so that they're giving someone who's like, yeah, I was just talking to you. What happened? Oh, we flipped from the bot to me. I'm real now. I mean, that's just an extreme example,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
look, here's the thing. Maybe 75% of people's journey before they call a human is in the digital sphere. And there's 28 steps, say the recent survey of someone investigating a new vendor. So the first 16 steps, roughly, or 20 steps, are in the digital sphere. That's a perfect opportunity for AI to look at patterns, help build personality profiles and trajectories of how that person learns, and infiltrate the crap out of that with good marketing. You're going to make more money, man. And this is where my head is. I could see how this is being used in politics to divide us in the world, and it upsets me. But in my world, I'm helping people get a better product, in my opinion.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's actually fun. It's fun science, actually. So,
Yeah, I like that you were saying too about, the hallucinations being controlled because you're feeding it the good information, right?
yeah.
So there's, to me, that's where some of those inside salespeople, some of their strategic time can be placed to say, okay, I'm listening to the AI, working through there. I'm going to feed it some more great information based on the responses or the reactions that I'm seeing happening throughout the sales cycle and
Right.
feeding it more positive information. And then there's going to be some of that that's eventually just learned through the feedback loop that
Yeah.
the AI tools will gather themselves. But to your point, you want to make sure that it's being fed some humanity and some of the emotion and psychological things that you're trying to, get to when people make a purchase. Last thing I'm going to ask about is, in terms of competitive differentiation, right? So, what are some things that you found help companies stand out? Like there's a lot of, especially in the cyberspace. I experienced it a little bit in GRC myself. That the vanilla syndrome, where everybody starts to look the same, right? And everybody starts to sound the same. They all have the same features, but maybe think about some of the ways that you not have differentiate yourself, but how you figured out how to differentiate yourself, the path to get to that.
Well, it might sound a little preachy too, Jamie, so I apologize, but you can always cut this part out, right? But
Yeah.
I really think it's the oldest message in the book is know your customer, know your partner, and know what motivates them. And this is something that will upset some people who are listening, but I've been selling IT, as you pointed out, for 30 years. And guess what? Things are commoditized now. No one wants to use that word. Why are there 6,500 companies in cybersecurity? Why do 200 in the threat detection and response market sound the same? Because we're all selling soap. And you have to start asking yourself, if that's the reality, don't hide in a closet and tell the founder, hey, your mousetrap isn't differentiable anymore. That's the wrong reaction for the marketing and go-to-market team. The right reaction is embrace it and look over to the B2C side and realize they deal with this problem every day and they're selling a lot of product. And so you have to make an emotional connection with your buyer. You have to convince the buyer that you really speak their language and you're not going to treat them like a number, but an actual individual. And the more I think as a B2B marketeer, the more I think about B2C, Jamie, the more I actually can answer that question. So on my side, we get very specific about, in the inside team in our digital profiles about how to emotionally trigger, and it's good stuff. Hey, if you save your company money, you can actually get promoted with Stellar Cyber. Here's the case study. It's a big city in the US where the guy showed so much savings, he got promoted. Hey, look at us. We're fun. We're not going to treat you like a number. When you come to our show, you get cool swag that makes you smile. And when you interact with us, you feel like you're talking to people that understand you. I just did a branding survey and it made me so proud because one of the customers said they actually pick up the phone and call me. And I go, that is Stellar Cyber. That's a consumer brand that cares about its customers. That's my answer. Really think about the people, not the company. Couldn't say it enough times.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so many people that get caught up in, all the features that you have. And
Yeah.
you're like, listen, everybody has the same 12 features, right? Like there's no getting around that. And some of them might be better at five of them than others, but at the end of the day, they're still getting you from point A to point Z through those features. There's got to be something more to it, right? And a lot of times I look at, like, as funny as it sounds, people want to belong to a community. They want to belong, they want to have a partnership.
Yeah.
Even if it's just me in Stellar Cyber or me in the Stellar Cyber community, right? There's that belonging that's like tribalism, as you mentioned, and until the bots are completely taking over and running everything, and there's
Yeah.
no humans making any decisions, you still have people that want to, interact with people.
Yeah, well, that's the big joke in cyber right now. You got autonomous cars and autonomous bikes and autonomous food processors and everything else, right? But some of the folks are out there saying autonomous SOC, Security Operations Center,
Mm-hmm.
just to play with it because everybody in cyber knows cyber is still pretty darn complicated and humans are going to be there for a while, but it's controversial and it's at the right time to use the word, but it is incorrect. And so no one in cyber has to worry about that, Jamie. There's still a lot of intuition and human intelligence needed to understand. What we need help with is get rid of the noise, get rid of the chaff, get rid of the crappy needles. I just want the needles in the needles that tell a story. And that's what machines do well. And that's what helps us see threats early by seeing the needles of the needles and combining them in a pattern quickly enough to say, you're under attack and it had just started. And good news, 6 months from now, you would have found out, but I'm telling you today. And that's the future. That's where SecOps is right now. And cyber's quickly identifying an early event. Because guess what? You're already hacked and you're going to get hacked. It's finding out when. That's the question. So, but that's what Gen AI and all these tools are helping people do better. That's good. That's a good thing.
Well, Steve, is there anything that you're working on concurrently that you're excited to tell people about?
Yeah, well, we have a great. I mean, we're doing a big explosion at the RSA conference in San Francisco, which is a leading platform. Come out and see the community shine their apple and see who's got the shiniest apple on the floor. And Jamie, I'm here to tell you, we're going to have a really shiny apple. We're going to be showing automated triage, which means people will not even have to think about an attack. We're going to show them how we're already triaging the attack and just asking for their blessing to push the button, making ransomware, phishing, and malware really simple to stop. Now, that's one thing. Plus, we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of cool activities. And we just rolled out some new branding visuals that I think will make people smile. And it's just the idea of how do you illuminate the darkest corners of your cybersecurity environment. Stellar Cyber knows how to do that. And we have a little icon we made to help people sort of smile when they see, so check out our LinkedIn channel and maybe you'll see some of our digital streams and you'll see some of that artwork.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time with me today. If anybody wants to look you up, I know you're on LinkedIn, right? Is there anything else that you're writing or publishing?
Well, I run a big marketing team, Jamie. So I watch the team and mentor the team to publish a lot. I'm more of a strategy guy, but we just got an article out in Forbes that I posted on my channel. I was real proud of. We finally have the market understanding where we're sitting, small medium enterprise, coupling them with managed service providers to create an ecosystem of knowledge and best practices and sharing, not a closed system. And Forbes captured us really well. Had two of our customers quoted, had some of their customers quoted, our managed providers. It's a really good story, and it shows how we're attacking the mid-market with MSSPs and killing it. So thanks to Scott Renovich and Forbes for publishing that piece because it captures our story very well.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and we'll talk again
Likewise.
soon.